Welcome back! I am so happy to get to talk to you today about our vision for math in 2020-2021. But before we dive in, let me just say that we chose the word vision on purpose because, of course, you think you kind of see one thing ahead of you, but then as you keep walking down a path, you see farther and farther ahead, and your vision comes in and out of focus. And so this is not like a permanent thing. This is just what we see ahead right now, and of course, that can change. So there's going to be two videos. One, the one that I'm doing right now, is the what and the why. And then later, you'll watch a video with Susanna about the how. Within this what and why video, first I just want to talk to you about the goals. And that's so that you can really know all this process and join in and feel like you can be a part of it. I'd like to talk about the goals for our community, meaning us, teachers, and the instructional coaches. The goals for our curriculum, specifically the remote learning curriculum, because that's the part that's really different, and then the goals for our kids. And that'll lead us into an outline of the structures. We'll talk about fully at home, hybrid, and we'll touch a smidge on if we're back fully at school, although many people have a pretty good idea of what that looks like because we've done it before. So just starting first with our community and what guides how we put together all of these videos. This quote is the quote that I am using to guide all of my thinking about leading these meetings that we are having now and that we're going to have every week for the rest of the school year. Take a moment to read the quote and press the button when you're done. This has felt like a bit of a challenge as we've started planning for remote learning because you guys were on a very well-deserved vacation. We had to start taking steps to get things in place in order that there be a curriculum available for our students in August. But please know that this is in the front of our minds and it's part of why we're sharing everything with you. And we really want your feedback on everything we're going to talk to you about today. So a little context before we dive into the goals for the curriculum. When we started remote learning in March, we thought it was going to be temporary. So we put together these packets. And one of our number one goals with the packets was accessibility. We wanted to make sure that any student, even if they were never able to access the internet, and even if they were a struggling student, was able to participate in school and feel positive about their school experience, especially because they had already learned so much by March. And so we created these packets and we provided videos that parents could watch. Because of those goals, these packets ended up really setting a floor for learning, meaning like a bottom minimum below which we didn't want any students to fall. But it didn't give you guys too many resources to really raise that ceiling for kids and really aim high. And so we have, regrets about that and wish we could have done more and have really reflected on how we could do more. And that has informed the goals that we've set for specifically the remote learning curriculum for next year. Here are a few of them. Our first goal was simplicity. We heard from parents and teachers that even one extra click could make it that much harder to do something that's already challenging. And so we really wanted to make sure that what we did was really simple and straightforward. Along with that, we wanted it to be predictable. So we wanted kids to be able to rely on it looking the exact same way from day to day and week to week. And connected to that as well was this sense of consistency across the network. So consistency across teachers, consistency across schools for two reasons. One, that's really reassuring for parents and students who maybe are in different classrooms or different schools where looking at what their friends are doing. But also it allows us to collaborate with each other, which is really one of the things that has helped us be successful in years past, and one of the things that has made weekly content team meetings possible. We also wanted there to be smooth transitions between fully at home, hybrid, and fully at school. So we know that it's very possible that we could start hybrid and then end up fully at home and then go back to hybrid and then be back fully at home and finally go fully back to school and then end up hybrid. There's just a lot of uncertainty, and so we wanted that transition to be smooth, especially for parents and kids. And also put the lowest possible lift on teachers. So you have to be able to do this work sustainably, and as much as we can take off your plate, we will, so that you can really put your focus on your interactions with kids and also taking care of yourselves. And one of the ways that really shows up is in those Zooms with kids. And so as we started to think about the teacher experience with the mathematics curriculum, we started to think about those Zooms are the most important thing you're going to do every day. And what can fit in that Zoom reasonably, and what can we take off your plate that's not a part of that Zoom? Because that is really where you're going to have the biggest impact. And then high quality engaging at home materials. So we know that we're going to be competing for our kids' attention. I mean, that is definitely the case in my house. And so whatever we create, we want it to be as high quality and as engaging as it can possibly be. All of this is, of course, for two goals for the students, the same goals we had last year: mastery and ownership. Mastery because we want our students to be able to move on to higher level math and pursue careers with mathematical focus. Ownership because we want them to be able to use their learning to pursue whatever future they see for themselves. This is really even more important than ever because we know that with COVID-19 there has been learning loss. So this is data from the NWEA, which is a test that we take at KIPP, but they use the national data to predict the learning loss from school closing in mid-March. Using what they have seen with summer loss, they predicted that in reading, there would be 2 weeks to 2 months of loss. In math, they predicted that there would be 6 to 12 months of loss. So what we see is that helping our students achieve grade level material is going to be more important than ever, but also we're going to have to take it in really small baby steps to make sure that our kids are with us. And of course, the mere imparting of information is not education. So as we work to achieve mastery, we're doing it in a way that gives our students pride and confidence, a strong voice, and a sense of ownership. So what have we done to work towards these goals? We started thinking about it in April, and because we really want this to be a co-owned curriculum, we focused on talking to teachers. We couldn't talk to everyone, so we set up bi-weekly meetings with at least 2 teachers per school to get their feedback on remote learning, to get their questions about remote learning, and to start to share with them our ideas, to hear what they thought, and to get their input. Then in May, we came up with some ideas and started to vet them with the school leaders. By June, we had come up with one proposal, and we were getting feedback on it outside of KIPP DC with other leaders and educators. So in July, we've been able to start building. Now, I say all this, even though we're building, that doesn't mean it's set in stone. There are still lots of things we need your thoughts and input on in order to make it stronger, and you can certainly be a part of the building. In August, we've been sharing, we've been adjusting, we'll be practicing, and we'll start teaching, but then that is really going to be happening in September. So what is the plan? We started thinking about it through the foundation of what we had done in the previous year, right? KIPP DC follows a pretty traditional model of introduction to new material, guided practice, and independent practice. And when we're at school, that usually plays out as time on the carpet when the teacher is doing a model or giving a question to prompt student thinking or guiding the class through exploring a big idea. Then students get out their whiteboards to apply what they've learned and practice through some problems as a team. And then they go to their desks to practice by themselves. Then we tried to envision what this would look like if we were at home. Not worrying about the hybrid model yet, but just thinking about fully remote learning, because then we figured we could always add in school as things got safer. And what we really kept in mind was, what is the most valuable part of the day? When is it that students are truly learning in that authentic, beautiful way that we want them to learn? And we really thought of moments like these, where teachers are engaged in what students are doing, what students are thinking, looking at their work, discussing their work. So we really thought about this guided practice part. Not that the introduction to material isn't valuable. That is really, really, really important. But this is when the learning is kind of solidified and galvanized by the presence of the teacher. And if this is where we really want teachers to spend their time, instead of here, then we can really look to a flipped classroom model. The flipped classroom model makes a few assumptions about what actually happens at school. But the basic premise is that at school, students are doing a lot of listening. And they do work at school as well, but then they end up having to take work home for homework, and they're doing practice at home. The flipped classroom model switches that around so that students do more work at school and they do their listening at home. We thought this was something interesting to consider because students are going to be at home. And so in the flipped classroom model, that at home is often videos or readings. And we thought we can use that and make the at school portion the Zoom. So this is what we propose as our structure. Hopefully, when we do the flipped classroom model, it looks more like this and less like this. Here's what we're proposing. Because this is where we want teachers to really use the power of Zoom to interact with students, we would like to provide a video for the introduction of new material each day. We don't want to ask teachers to create those videos because that would involve a lot of work, and that is something that we can support you with. That also provides some consistency across the network, and we have some tools to add embedded questions and make things look really good. Our plan is to incorporate a guest speaker and lots of other bells and whistles to make this as engaging as we possibly can. Then, students will be on Zoom and Nearpod for the guided practice. We did a little bit of this in the spring as adults with each other to practice listening to each other through Zoom and then being able to see everyone's work on Nearpod. And then independent practice can be done on Edulastic because students are able to complete the problems. They can actually show their work in Edulastic just like they would show their work on a piece of paper. They can draw on the problem and then get instant feedback about whether it was right or wrong depending on the settings that you choose. You can see real-time data, which can allow you to give feedback individually to students. And of course, we end lessons with an exit ticket, and we will continue to do that. The exit ticket would be in Edulastic, and we will continue to collect data in the exit ticket tracker that we can share and learn from each other. This is what our weekly schedule could look like. If we are fully remote, then there would be one lesson Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, with Wednesday having a self-directed lesson, a video or activity that the student can do on their own, because this is a day that is being set aside for content team meetings, and teachers will not be available to Zoom with their whole class on that day. When we move into a hybrid model, we will keep this structure to provide continuity. And when students are in class, they will get the richest experience we can provide to set a foundation for the upcoming week of lessons. We didn't want to stagger these lessons because then every teacher would have four different groups at 4 different places. And so instead, we're using the time when students are in class to provide really rich experiences that they can't do at home that provide a foundation for upcoming lessons. And this continues for every group. So each teacher would be planning 4 remote lessons and 1 foundations lesson per week. And of course, when students are in school, then they can just do a lesson every day like we've done before. This is a few of the things that we're thinking about, and this is just the start, and I'm sure you're going to have so much other stuff to share with us. The first thing is schools will have variations in schedules. We have worked with school leaders to design the structure so they have this in mind, and then they work together to create a schedule template, but from there, every school leader adapted it to suit their own school. So the schedules won't be exactly the same. What's important is that within a school, that schedule is consistent and sets kids up for success. The current plan is for CGI and model drawing to be integrated into at-home lessons when learning is fully remote. In other words, we don't have a CGI or model drawing block in fully remote instruction simply because we cannot put our students on a computer and Zoom for that long. And so this is something we're a little bit worried about, and if you have ideas, we will definitely welcome them. For now, we're just making sure that story problems are going throughout those lessons. And we aren't currently planning to create spiraled homework for the time when we are fully remote because the students are already doing a lot of work at home, and we have this flipped model. Our next step is to ask you to read a little bit about what flipped learning could look like in a primary class to help provide a foundation for the pieces we're going to try to put together. And then Susanna has a video explaining exactly how we are going to make this. Then we have a really expansive survey to get your feedback and thoughts on adjustments we should make, improvements we should make, and other things we can do to improve this experience for you and for our kids. Thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to see your faces on Zoom, and I appreciate you so much. We love